Um, Hi, my name is Toby, and I'm a perfectionist.
Hi Toby, hi Toby.
A couple of months ago, I was watching a Casey Neistat vlog, and he mentioned a quote that struck such a chord with me, just got stuck in my head, and I just haven't been able to get it out. So much so that I just really wanted to make this video. The quote goes, "The perfect is the enemy of the good. The perfect is the enemy of the good." Now, it's not Casey's quote, it actually comes from a long dead French writer called Voltaire who lived during the 18th century. And the original quote, obviously translated from French, went something like, "Better is the enemy of good enough." And it alludes to this idea that striving for perfection, when you have something that is already good or great, may prevent you from ever releasing it or putting it out. It blocks your creativity because you never think that the project you're working on is good enough, because you're kind of like, oh, I can make it a little bit better, a bit better. You're kind of in this perfectionist vein, but by doing that, you're just never releasing it because it's never good enough in your own eyes. The reason that particular quote got stuck so strongly in my head is because it summarizes one of what I feel is my core problem with being creative and producing all of the content and all of the things that I really want to do to build this business. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm not saying that in a la-di-da, look at me, I'm a perfectionist. I actually think it's one of my faults. It prevents me from being productive and creative when I think I have something good or great. I'm not ready to put it out yet, and this happens to me all the time when I'm creating videos. For example, there's been videos that I didn't release because I thought the audio wasn't great enough, or I wanted to add another cut to it, like another scene into it, or maybe tweak the visual effects a little bit. There's so many things that hold me back being productive and creative. Now, in the end, I still get it out, but I'm spending another week or two holding onto something that would be great to release, and I think that would provide just as much value as what's coming out after I've spent those extra 2 weeks. So I'm spending an inordinate amount of effort polishing that last little bit where there is actually very little value for you guys, for anyone that's getting to see my projects and my videos. There's very little value in me essentially wasting all this extra time trying to push it into like this perfect state that I've got into my mind. Besides holding me back releasing videos for YouTube and content for Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, because I just feel it's not good enough yet and spending all my extra time on it. One of the things this problem really manifests itself is when I'm talking to the camera, especially when I'm doing the talking to the camera part of my tutorials. Quite often I'm repeating a single sentence 20, 30 times because I'm not happy with how I articulated it, and just with the fact that the way I said it may have sounded a bit funny, or maybe, I didn't pronounce the English properly, which quite honestly I still don't do because I'm not a native speaker. But so many times I'm repeating and repeating and repeating myself just to try to get it absolutely perfect. In the grand scheme of things, however, my viewers don't really care whether in the grand scheme though, viewers care about the value that you give them. So if you release a video, people care about the value. For me, obviously, that's the educational content and delivering the information that I want to deliver in the way that I deliver it. But most people wouldn't even notice whether you have a text that just blends in and shows something, or whether, it blends in with like nice motion blur and it comes in from the side and swipes back out. People don't really care. I do, and I'm trying not to, because that is exactly this perfectionist thing that I'm trying not to let out too much, because it is blocking me, it's preventing me from being as creative and productive as I really want to be. This concept of essentially wasting a lot of time and effort on trying to polish that last little bit is really well represented in something called the 80-20 rule. What's the 80-20 rule? I'm glad you asked. The 80-20 rule goes like this. Assume that this is your effort. And at the very end here, you have 100% of effort. Down here, you have your results. And again, at the top, you have 100%. Now, the interesting thing that happens is that you actually get to a pretty good result state very, very quickly, but then that really flattens out towards the end. So what actually happens is that with about 20% of effort, you can get about 80% of the results you're after. So if you're making a YouTube video or something, this means that with about 20% of your effort and time, you can probably get to about 80% of the quality for your final video. However, then it will take you the remaining 80% of effort to get that last little 20% of quality or of your results. So the end result only increases by 20% for another 80% of your effort. So optimally, you actually want to release your videos or your content or your blog posts or whatever you're creating usually around this point here, because this is where you're maximizing the value you're getting for the effort you're putting in. So the optimal point to release or create is really at the 80-20 point, because this is where you get the most value for the least amount of effort. I really hope that made sense, and I hope it kind of shows you how you can be productive and creatively productive without perfectionism kind of getting in your own way, which is really something that I'm trying to re-emphasize in my head, especially ever since I heard the quote, "The perfect is the enemy of the good." I really want to focus on just creating value and putting things out there, even if they're not as polished as they may possibly be, because obviously trying to get content out and producing things is really what I enjoy the process so much, but then I kind of, like little things just irk me so much if something isn't perfectly aligned or the sound isn't as great, and it kind of just, it grinds on me, and I'm trying to not let it and just put it out there anyways. So these vlogs are actually I'm actually trying to use these vlogs to kind of, these vlogs are actually released. These vlogs are kind of a way to try to help me get over this, trying to get something. Now, so these vlogs are kind of, here it is again, I'm finding myself repeating the same sentence over and over because I'm not happy with how it sounded. And really, one of the reasons for me to release this vlog, and it probably not being as polished as some of my other things, is that I'm trying to use it to get myself to accept things that may not be absolutely perfect and polished. And obviously, I want to release things that I still think deliver you value, right? I don't want to put something out that I think is mediocre or bad or just nobody cares about. I want to make videos that you enjoy and hopefully you get something out of it. I just want to try to not waste 80% of the effort and a huge amount of extra time getting that last little 10% of quality on top of it when it's not really needed. So yes, these vlogs are going to be a little bit rougher. Do let me know down in the comments below whether you enjoy it, what you want to know, whether there's other things you're kind of interested in, some behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, there's a reason I'm kind of in my little bare filming space, because I want it to be a little bit more personal, a little bit behind the scenes, because I do find that while I love making all of the stuff for Surface Studio, it is quite staged, right? I'm presenting, it's like a bit of a show, whereas these vlogs I want to be much more personal, much more just me talking about things that go through my head, like that quote from Voltaire originally, "The perfect is the enemy of the good," that I heard in a Casey Neistat vlog, and that's been stuck in my head ever since. So yes, let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed this video, also if you do have any questions that you would want to know. Now finally, I actually have a question for you, and that is, what do you do when you find yourself in this perfectionist mindset? What are some of the ways that you kind of force yourself to break out of this spending endless amounts of effort just kind of polishing the same thing over and over until you realize, wait, I'm just wasting time. I could just be done with this project already. Are there certain things that you personally love to do to kind of get out of that mindset and be productive and release it so that you can get some feedback as soon as you can without wasting all of that extra effort? So leave me those comments down below. Also, if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I will see you later.
Okay, I'm just gonna sit back down now. Thank you.